I often have said that I think a 3-5, 4-0 player can often feel more pressure than, Roger Federer did, or some of the players finals of Wimbledon. Our bodies are no longer the same, but we can really drop into mastery. There's a whole different sort of approach to tennis as you age, and hopefully can accept it and look yourself in the mirror. And it's not always easy. I've definitely noticed a shift in the last 6 months, but I'm adapting, and I'm excited actually to kind of, it's sort of the next phase. They report playing the best tennis of their life, despite being in their 60s, 70s, and one in their mid 80s.
If you're a competitive tennis player over 50, there's a good chance the biggest thing getting in your way isn't your forehand or your movement. It's the pressure, expectations, and comparisons you bring onto the court. Welcome to Insider's Playbook. I'm Mike Rogers. Today, mental performance expert and fearless tennis creator Jeff Greenwald joins me to talk about why that gets harder as we age and how we can adapt and compete with more freedom and keep improving. Let's get into it. Hey, Jeff, it's great to have you on Insider's Playbook today.
Great to be here with you, Mike. Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to talking about the mental game because that's something that I struggle with a lot, and I'm sure a lot of listeners do. So I'll get right into this. In The Best Tennis of Your Life, the book you wrote, you talk about leaving your expectations on the court. And I'm curious, how does that concept change for senior tennis players who are playing with decades of self-comparison versus somebody that's younger that maybe has no history that they're trying to live up to?
Right. It's actually leave your expectations off the court, because we certainly bring enough of them on the court. But yeah, leaving your expectations, and easier said than done, of course, right? Like everything. But I think that, one of the things that's challenging, other than an aging body that we'll talk about and what to do with that, right? But we go on expecting to maybe play the way we did, years ago, or and we're sort of chasing something there that in the past. And so the expectations, are really kind of probably the leading reason people reach out to me. They don't realize that at the moment, but that expectations of playing well, winning, and beating people that you need to beat to stay on a particular USTA league team. And there's a lot of protecting as well. So there's the chasing the rating and moving up, maybe even the lineup, and people you feel like you quote should beat. And of course, as we age, there's limitations too. Things we need to be aware of, accept, and sort of adapt. That's the big aspect. So I think it changes. Instead of the expectations on the outcome and what you used to do, it's trying to create things that you have control over, focusing on metrics that, like being more consistent, and of course, building a different style of game maybe, and more drop shots, and not hitting as hard, and finishing points earlier. So there's different expectations that we actually can have control over, as opposed to the other sort of more fear-based expectations, and often relate to outcome.
Do you find that when you're talking with some of the older players that they're trying to live up to their younger self, so to speak? I know it's kind of like you look in the mirror and you go, God, I don't look 68.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think time is such a weird concept, and we have this sort of old, younger self trapped inside, everybody has this younger self trapped inside. And, it's like, but that is, of course, the part of the opportunity, the new challenge is to really accept and maybe even embrace the new identity that you're creating. I think, to answer your question, there's if you think about the aging demographic, me being one of them, here turning 60 this year, and I've had my own sort of realizations recently, and which
Welcome to the club.
yeah, exactly. But you get a lot of people now, think about it, who are retired or soon to be retired, have some disposable income and time, and tennis becomes a real, a greater passion and maybe even an obsession, and the identities that we have in other areas, maybe you're just very successful in your job and et cetera. And of course, there's all that success, we sort of, that we don't lose that drive, so I think that drive can be transferred into tennis, and it becomes, it can get really, we can get a little neurotic about it, and we can get in our own way really easily when we're trying to either protect an identity or, create a new one that really matters to us. And our self-worth actually can be reflected in winning and losing and where we are on the team. And so tennis can start to, create a very heavy backpack over time if you don't watch out,
I know one thing you mentioned in your book too is kind of behaving your way into the zone through posture and walking. So how can we do that when our bodies really don't feel like that, when we're fatigued and we have soreness?
Well, we do get more adrenaline when we play, right? So people get the advantage of that if you embrace the adrenaline. But while we can't move exactly the same way, we're not as explosive as we age. Don't have the same flexibility and sort of strength, but we can still be on the court and walk with purpose, walk with intention. And that chapter's a lot about that, sort of using specific cues and, whether it's a fist pump or just, again, like the way that you walk with, sort of a determined walk, and not so caught up in your head and thinking about the last point and beating yourself up, which is, of course, things we do. And so the movement it changes, but I think we can all continue to apply and adapt and get on the court with intention as opposed to expectations, the same old expectations. Yeah.
As we're carrying a lot of, emotional baggage into, the court, how is that different from like our identity as like when you see junior athletes that you coach now, how's that emotional weight change as we get older?
When you're older, I think that our worth can be even more connected to how we play, whether we're accepted into I'm playing on this team or not. And because it narrows down to tennis, and that's the big thing. No more work, and kids are gone, and so I think tennis can really start to become the playground for self-worth. Trying to get that worth, and which is pretty similar too to kids who are trying to get into college and play college tennis or professionally, and the self-worth, and I write that in the book too, can overlap greatly with our performance and our results. And we just have to be careful about that and be aware of it and walk that fine line there,
When you're working with adult league players as opposed to adult tournament players, do you see a difference in that kind of pressure that they put on themselves because they are trying to maybe make the number one line, or they're trying to make sure that they make the team, as opposed to a tournament player who all I got to do is worry about me because I'm going to show up and I'm playing whoever I'm playing?
So I often have said that I think a 3-5, 4-0 player can often feel more pressure than, Roger Federer did, or, some of the players finals of Wimbledon, it's a different animal, like in that there's more mastery that's happening at the highest level. You hear Sinner talk, for example. But that's where I feel like players need to move toward it. And it's such a great opportunity as we age. Our bodies are no longer the same, but we can really drop into mastery and like taking pride and get excited about these little, working on that forehand volley. And, but I think that there's fear in both realms. But at the league level, that 5 or 6 can often be feel like a train wreck for them, right? Because their game just falls off the cliff a bit more. You can get away with more if your technique is more sound and you've had, a lot of those experiences. Because a lot of league players, they do come to the game late, like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't played in front of people and the captain watching and all of that sort of being observed and maybe judged. And so there's a lot of fear for sure in the adult league USTA scenario,
Well, and I guess maybe that's why I don't fear the age group tournaments as much, because I don't have the baggage there. I don't have the reps, and I know I don't have the reps that, somebody who's 65 now and has been playing since they were a kid.
Yeah.
And I'll never get the reps. I mean, it's impossible.
Right. So, and that brings in the idea of adjustments, being able to make good adjustments and having had that experience, and that's still a challenge at all levels, but, getting more confident in your ability to adjust and adapt in a match or otherwise, even with your game over time, to kind of start playing a little bit differently. It's not just power, it's a little more finesse and recovery. And there's a whole different sort of approach to tennis as you age, and hopefully can accept it and look in the mirror, and it's not always easy,
Right. And then hoping that, you're still around for the 95s and
right.
And by that time I have the reps.
Yeah, the reps, and Mike, if you make it to the tournament desk at 95, you may actually win the tournament. I mean, there's a good shot. If you can just get down those stairs and get there, you're right in there. Yeah.
So for someone returning to play after an injury, like what I'm doing myself, what kind of mental reset would you recommend that I do before I really start competing?
Coming back and really embracing the warm up, to take those extra 10 minutes and, whether that's get on the bike or do some movement and do a little bit of stretching because, we're otherwise, we put ourselves in harm's way a bit, right? Again, you want to you don't want to let that ball go by. So you kind of make that quick move, and that often those quick, sudden, impulsive moves can really take us out. And so, the other part is to, we talk about being present, right? Easier said than done again, but like your ability to come back to the moment, one shot at a time, one point at a time, knowing where your body is in space. So after an injury, like being physically present in your body is helpful, because one of the reasons I've been very, very lucky, with my longevity, I play, just still being able to play at a pretty high level, because I'm aware of my body and I'm loose as well. So I think there's an opportunity for players to kind of find this sort of quote looseness. It's not like relax in the same way, but it's like your muscles are a little looser, a little more elastic, and you kind of know where you are relative to the ball. And so you're not just making these impulsive, jerky movements. You're like, your vision is holding, the server just served and here you are. And like, you just have more awareness instead of being in your head around, the score and I hope we win because like that's human, but getting back into the present then really helps with coming back from injury and preventing it from happening in the first place.
Or happening again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any other mental shifts that changes as we get older that you see that might be different than when we were younger?
I have noticed that I'm not picking up the ball as to my racket. I'm losing a little bit of data with my, I don't know if it's also reaction time. That's good for me personally. This is a personal anecdote, but I've definitely noticed a shift in the last 6 months. But I'm adapting and I'm excited actually to kind of, it's sort of the next phase of how do I, adapt and leverage what I know about the mind and the body and really bring that to the table. And that's a really fun, I think, chance for people to know themselves, know what they can do, what they can't do, and not beat yourself up when you're making a few more unforced errors than before, because it does creep in, whether it's reactions, eyesight, movement a little bit, right?
As long as you keep looking at it as a learning experience, and you can get better as you keep going.
I have a group right now. They're working actively on their mental game and how they show up for matches, their intentions and focus, really knowing what kind of focus. There's different kinds of focus, internal and external focus and all this, and they're applying it, and it's incredible. Like they report playing the best tennis of their life despite being in their 60s, 70s, and one in their mid 80s.
Wow.
It's one who got her first gold ball a couple of years ago at 82 or something, so it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Oh, I got to talk to her because that's the dream that I have.
Oh, well, she's awesome. Yeah. You you never know. Keep going. Yeah.
That's it. And enjoy the journey along the way.
100%.
So I'm sure people listening to this or watching this would love to know more about what you're doing and possibly get in touch with you. Tell me what you're doing and what kind of resources you might have for those folks.
I think one of the things is just to get into my community and come on over to fearlesstennis.com, and I have a free newsletter. Sign up there and you get a PDF from me about Fearless Tennis and overlaps with the best tennis of your life and something you can have in your bag. And then I have this new webinar coming, and I'm opening up to 8 players, and we'll start in September. So I'm excited about that, and people can come to my website there, and there'll be a link for the Fearless Tennis experience online. I have a course, and you get the course if you sign up for the webinar, but that's also available on my site. So in any case, those are a few ways for people to get connected to me.
Fantastic. Well, I will definitely have those links in the show notes so people can grab that. And I appreciate you coming on today and sharing your insights.
It's my pleasure, Mike. Thanks for having me.
A lot of what Jeff talked about today comes down to changing what we expect from ourselves as we get older. We can't keep comparing our game today to the player we used to be. We have to focus more on what we can control and stop letting ratings, lineups, wins and losses define how we feel about our tennis, and recognize just how much pressure we can put on ourselves even at the recreational level. But maybe the biggest takeaway is that adapting doesn't mean giving up on getting better. As Jeff shared, players in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s are still improving and, in some cases, playing the best tennis of their lives. If this helped you and you want to keep improving, do me a favor and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And I'll see you next week on Insider's Playbook. I'm Mike Rogers. Until next time, play smart and compete strong.